The humans said they'd bring snacks. We assumed it was a euphemism for weapons. It was not. The first time Admiral KLX laid eyes on a human transmission, he thought it was some sort of psychological warfare. A small, pale earth creature was seen screaming into a microphone while hitting plastic drums with glowing sticks, surrounded by flashing lights and other humans losing their collective minds. The file was labeled Karaoke Night. At first, the Zarnathi High Council believed it was a ritual of madness, perhaps a desperate cry for help from a species on the brink of extinction. But after observing another dozen transmissions, humans leaping from metal tubes in the sky, humans consuming boiling liquids for pleasure, humans voluntarily watching dramatized murder while eating popcorn, the truth became impossible to ignore. Humans were doing these things on purpose. KLX stared at the screen, silent. Then he leaned back in his gelatinous command chair and murmured, "They are not well." You see, the Zarnathi Empire had studied thousands of civilizations, telepathic worms, antimatter poets, civilizations made entirely of sneeze particles. They'd watched the brutal games of the Krivtak, who trained with plasma axes since birth. The Dulaks, who evolved in acid lakes and held dance battles to resolve planetary conflicts. The Zarnathi had seen a lot. But humans? Humans weren't strong like the Krivtak. They weren't mentally dominant like the mind swarms of Theta Prime. They weren't even particularly durable. Their bones cracked easily. They sunburned, and for some reason they needed sleep every single day, or they became emotional and loud. So why? Why were they still alive? One theory proposed by Chief Analyst Frinks was that humans simply forgot they were fragile. Their overconfidence acted like a shield. Another theory? They just didn't care. The turning point came when a transmission titled America's Funniest Home Videos was intercepted. It was chaos. Humans falling off ladders, walking into walls, getting hit in the face with balls, pies, and sometimes birds, all followed by laughter. KLX stood in the council hall, the video paused behind him as a still image of a man mid-fall, half-eaten hot dog in one hand, sheer panic in his eyes. He cleared his throat. "Esteemed council," he said solemnly, "they find injury amusing." A collective gasp rippled across the chamber. "They do not avoid pain," KLX continued. "They document it, they share it, and then they laugh about it together." A long pause. Then Councillor Berksack slowly raised one of her 12 eyebrows. "Are we sure they're not a form of weaponized performance art?" It wasn't long before the Zarnathi's curiosity overtook their fear. The Empire had recently reinstated the Galactic Apex Survival Tournament, a deadly tradition from the old days, when empires proved their might by sending their fiercest warriors into elaborate, soul-breaking trials. No species had survived more than 4 phases. It was a test of wit, strength, and spirit. A cosmic crucible. Perfect. What better way to assess the humans than by inviting them to their own doom? An official, glowing invite was transmitted across space. "To the apex species of Earth, you are hereby challenged to the Galactic Apex Survival Tournament. No weapons, no allies, only your mind and body. Prove your strength or perish." The response came 5 hours later. A photo of a grinning human holding a 6-pack of beer, thumbs up, captioned, "Sounds sick. Can we bring GoPros?" The High Council debated this for a full day. "What is a GoPro?" "A recording device, Admiral. They wish to record the event?" "Yes, sir. For content." KLXX nearly choked on his nutrient gel. The humans arrived 2 weeks later. Their spacecraft, an oddly painted hunk of metal with flames and the words SS Mayhem crudely written across the side, landed sideways. They tumbled out wearing cargo shorts, sunglasses, and shirts with things like "Pain is temporary, glory is forever," and "Team Earth, let's get weird." One of them brought a ukulele. Another had a flag made of underwear. KLX welcomed them formally. "Earthlings, welcome. You have accepted our most sacred challenge. Few survive. Fewer return. Do you have any last words?" The human leader, who referred to himself as Chad III, grinned. "Let's freaking go!" Then he high-fived KLX, without warning, with a full palm. Everyone froze. That kind of contact was usually considered a dual invitation on at least 17 planets. But Chad just walked away, singing something about Eye of the Tiger. Back on the command ship, Calx slumped into his chair. "They're not scared," he whispered. Frinks looked equally pale. "Sir, I don't think they even read the rules. They think this is a vacation." "No, worse," Frinks muttered, eyes wide. They think this is fun. Calix's voice trembled. What have we done? He looked out the viewport, watching the humans take group selfies in front of the Swamp of Screaming Leeches. One of them tried to pet it. The tournament hadn't even started. And the Zarnathi were already losing. Phase 1 began with a ceremonial gong, or at least what the Zarnathi thought was a ceremonial gong. Turned out it was just a dented satellite dish someone found in storage. But the humans? They loved it. Yo, sick bass drop, yelled Chad III, immediately headbanging like he was at a metal concert. KLX, watching from the command bridge, blinked slowly. They're celebrating? Phase 1. The Swamp of Screaming Leeches. A vile, squelching marsh inhabited by hyper-aggressive parasites that fed not on blood, but on confidence. They latched onto your aura, your ego, your sense of self. Most warriors emerged shattered, doubting their life choices, some unsure if they even existed. The humans? One cannonballed into the swamp, cannonballed. Another yelled, "Shotgun the mudslide," and dove in after him. They were covered in leeches within seconds. The Zarnathi watched in horror as the confidence-sucking creatures clung to their backs, their necks, even their faces. And the humans started cheering. Dude, this is just like that spa in Iceland. I feel tingly. Is that supposed to happen? Leech me harder, bro. Calix nearly fainted. Why? Why are they enjoying this? Frinks, monitoring aura readings, panicked. Sir, the leeches are overloading. They're absorbing too much confidence. One of them just self-destructed. A leech popped off Chad's shoulder with a sound like a rubber band snap. He looked around. Did something bite me? When they finished phase 1, laughing, high-fiving, and thanking the leeches, the Zarnathi had to call an emergency break. Backstage, the remaining tournament staff huddled. They've completed phase 1 without injury, mental collapse, or even mild confusion. Worse, Frinks whispered, they asked if there's a souvenir shop. Phase 2 was rushed. The council needed results, proof that humans could be broken. It was time for the Hall of Eternal Screams, a long, twisting corridor where each footstep triggered an audio hallucination, regret, shame, personal failures amplified into bone-rattling echoes. The strongest Krivtak once curled into a ball after 12 meters and whispered, "Tell my mom I'm sorry." The humans, they filmed a vlog. This place got like echo reverb 3000, bro. I swear I just heard my 6th grade gym teacher say I'd never amount to anything. Dude, same. We're totally trauma twinning. They kept walking. They laughed at their inner demons. They named one of the screams Todd. When Chad stood in front of a swirling vortex of unresolved guilt, the scream manifested as a disapproving elderly man saying, "You'll never be a real adult." Chad flipped him off. "That's what you said when I got that jet ski, Todd? Look at me now." He then twerked in front of the vortex. The vortex recoiled. By the end of the hall, the psychic amplifiers had shorted out. One technician was openly weeping. "I just wanted them to cry," she sobbed. "Just one tear." Frinks handed her a tissue. They cried from laughing. Does that count? No, it doesn't. KLX was now pacing. They're immune to pain, immune to shame. What next? We trap them in a gravity maze and they invent parkour? Silence. Frinks blinked. That's actually phase 3. Oh, for the love of the void. The humans were given a short break before the next trial. During this time, most contestants usually meditated, prayed, or wrote goodbye messages to loved ones. The humans? They set up a slip and slide. No one knew where they got the materials. One minute they were drinking neon-colored liquids labeled Hydration Blast. The next minute they had created a 30-meter sheet of slippery madness, coated in something called Body Butter Max. They slid through the hallways, colliding with walls, statues, and each other. They called it team building. One even interviewed a confused Zarnathi medic for his vlog, asking, "So, do you guys have TikTok? Because this is going viral." When phase 3, the labyrinth of gravitational betrayal, was finally ready, the humans showed up late because someone had misplaced a flip-flop. Once inside, the room tilted, rotated, and shifted randomly, forcing participants to climb upside down, sideways, even inside out through corridors that made no physical sense. Chad screamed with joy. This is just like that one escape room in Vegas, but like with more nausea. Another human began narrating the challenge in a fake documentary voice. And here we observe the wild earthling in its natural environment, defying physics for no reason and yelling YOLO in the face of certain doom. Halfway through the maze, someone started beatboxing. The others joined in. Then they invented a game called Gravity Pong. No one knows the rules. They still haven't exited the maze. They said, "We're not done playing." On the bridge, KLX stared into the void. They are not surviving the challenges. They are thriving in them. Frink slowly removed his headset. "Sir, I think we've made a terrible mistake." The Admiral's voice was hollow. "We invited them to our most sacred, most dangerous trial, and they turned it into a bachelor party." His tentacles drooped. His voice cracked. "Void, help us all." The final phase was meant to be the end of them. The humans had laughed through the Swamp of Screaming Leeches. They had vlogged their way through the Hall of Eternal Screams. They had turned the gravity maze into a playground. But Phase 4? Phase 4 was different. It was the one that even the Krivtak refused to speak of. The one that broke the minds of telepaths. The one that made a warlord crawl back to his planet and retire to raise flowers. The Maze of Regret. It was not physical. It did not hurt your body. No, it was worse. It trapped you inside your own choices, your failures, your guilt. Every mistake you'd ever made was brought to life, projected in haunting detail, looping again and again until your soul begged for mercy. Admiral Kellex watched the humans enter the shimmering portal. He felt something. Not hope, not victory. Just a quiet, exhausted plea. Please, just be normal about this. The maze accepted the humans one by one, swallowing them in blinding pulses of light. Silence. Tense minutes passed. Then, laughter. Kellex stood up so fast his chair squeaked. No, that can't be. But yes, it was definitely laughter. The maze had formed into twisting corridors of painful memories, and the humans were walking through them like they were on a nostalgia tour. Literal walking disasters from their past were manifesting before them. Failed job interviews, childhood embarrassments, exes at weddings they weren't invited to. And what did they do? They took selfies with them. One corridor showed a human tripping during his graduation speech, pants falling down mid-sentence. Instead of shame, he reenacted the fall, added commentary, and rated it a solid 8.5 on the cringe scale. Another corridor showed Chad getting rejected by someone named Megan at prom, loudly, with a microphone, in front of 200 people. Chad pointed at the illusionist and said, "Oh my God, it's Megan!" "You guys, this was the moment I discovered gym memberships and emotional numbness. Say hi to Megan, everyone." He waved. The hallucination waved back. "Still not into me? No worries, I brought my own snacks this time." He bit into a protein bar and gave a thumbs up to a floating regret demon. The maze tried to shift tactics. It conjured up global-scale regrets, environmental damage, war, economic collapse. The kind of big existential regrets that usually knocked even the most hardened souls to their knees. The humans looked around and nodded solemnly. Then someone whispered, "So basically every group project ever." Another replied, "I knew I forgot to pay my taxes." The guilt demons became confused, and then slowly they began to vanish. One by one. The maze was designed to grow stronger with emotional distress, to feed on denial, fear, shame. But the humans, they embraced every mistake. They named their regrets. They danced with their failures. Someone put sunglasses on a personified version of that one time I ghosted my dentist. They started treating the entire thing like a therapy retreat with a bar tab. One of them even left a review on an interdimensional travel app. Maze of Regret, 3/5 stars. Needed more snacks, but I faced my childhood insecurities and now I'm emotionally invincible. Chad cried, but like in a good way. The Zarnathi monitors started to short circuit. The maze's core, a psychic crystal embedded with a million sorrowful souls, began to flicker. Its color shifted from deep void blue to a confused shade of mauve. Back on the command ship, alarms started blaring. "Sir, the maze is breaking." Kalex's face paled. "How can it break? It's made of emotions." "That's just it," Frink shouted, spinning in his chair. "They're not fighting their regrets. They're hugging them." A psychic backlash burst through the systems. Sparks flew. The screens went dark. And then, silence. Total, complete silence. The humans stepped out of the maze, casually, sipping juice boxes they had brought from who knows where. Chad waved to the nearest Zarnathi with a big grin. Hey, that maze thing? Therapeutic as hell. Y'all should market that. Like intergalactic self-help? You could make millions. Calyx collapsed into his chair, head in his hands, whispering, they healed themselves. Frinx's voice was faint. They went into our deadliest psychic trap and came out emotionally stronger. Who are these people? Calyx groaned. From the exit tunnel, Chad shouted, we're gonna post a 3-part video series, Facing Regret with Swag. Hit that subscribe button. The Zarnathi stared in horror. They had just weaponized introspection. And the worst part? The maze was now sending out thank you notes to the humans. Somehow, it felt seen. KLX stood slowly, tentacles shaking, and declared, that's it. That was our last phase, our last hope. Frinx looked like he'd aged 20 cycles in an hour. We invited the humans to our deadliest psychological battlefield, and they turned it into a healing retreat. Both of them stared out the viewport at the humans, now doing yoga stretches on the landing pad. One of them played the ukulele again. The song was about forgiveness. It wasn't even bad. Caxx muttered the only words left in his mind. We've awakened something we don't understand. The humans were dancing, on the landing pad, with glow sticks, to music that wasn't playing. Chad was leading the group in something called the wobble. Another was wearing a bathrobe and aviator sunglasses, holding a fruit smoothie he definitely didn't have when they started the tournament. Someone had lit sparklers. Admiral KLX just stood there, frozen in the doorway of the command dome, watching this inexplicable celebration unfold in the very heart of the Zarnathi war fortress. He whispered, Did we lose? Frinx didn't respond. He was too busy holding a stress crystal to his forehead, breathing deeply, and muttering phrases like, they can't hurt you. They don't mean to. It's just how they are. Technically, the humans had completed all phases. They'd faced the swamp, the screams, the gravity maze, and the maze of regret. And they hadn't just survived, they'd flourished. They'd turned the whole thing into some bizarre blend of boot camp, spa day, and frat party. Worse, they'd liked it. Now, per tournament protocol, they were entitled to a reward, one befitting the survivors of the most brutal trials in the galaxy. The Crystal Skull of Valor. Ancient, sacred, glowing. It had never been claimed. Until now. KLX held the relic in trembling hands. This was forged by our ancestors in the molten heart of Zarnix Prime. Frinx added quietly. It's been untouched for 1,000 years. KLX exhaled slowly. And we're about to hand it to Chad. They approached the group. The humans stopped dancing. Chad stepped forward, arms wide, grinning like he'd just found out tacos were free on Tuesdays. Yo, did we win? Klux cleared his throat. Humans of Earth, you have completed all 4 phases of the Galactic Apex Survival Tournament. There was applause. From the humans, for themselves. And despite our every intention, despite the very structure of the trials, despite everything we thought we knew about sentient endurance, you have succeeded. Let's go, someone screamed. A firework went off. No one knew where it came from. KLX raised the skull slowly. This is yours now. Chad took it reverently. For a full 3 seconds, it looked like he was about to deliver a heartfelt speech. Then he turned it upside down and yelled, Bong! Skull! The group erupted. KLX flinched so hard he dropped his clipboard. Frinx quietly screamed into his hands. They watched as the humans chanted around the artifact, inventing a drinking game that involved squats, shouting compliments at each other, and something that may or may not have been interpretive dance. Sir, Frinx whispered, they just weaponized ceremony. I know, KLX said flatly. I was here. The humans were getting ready to leave. Their ship, the SS Mayhem, was somehow messier than when it arrived. Covered in stickers. Someone had painted flames on the sides that looked like they were drawn by a sugar-addled toddler. Before boarding, Chad turned and waved. Hey, thanks for having us. Sick tournament, 10 out of 10. You enjoyed it? Killex asked, already knowing the answer. Oh yeah, bro, life-changing. I cried, I screamed, I bonded with my boys. That maze thing, it healed my relationship with my dad, man. Killex blinked. Your father was in the maze? Nah, but I felt like he was, you know? No. Anyway, we left you guys a little something in the swamp. Gift basket, bottle of ranch, and a mixtape we made during Phase 3. Bangers only. The humans climbed aboard their ship. The ramp started to close. One last voice echoed from inside. "Tag us if you post any footage." And then they were gone. Silence fell across the fortress. Zarnathi officials stood stunned. Warriors, philosophers, technicians, all of them trying to process what just happened. Finally, Calyx turned to the High Council and said, "We cannot let them return." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the room. If they ever come back, we must greet them not with challenge, but with a catered buffet and no sharp edges. Frinks nodded solemnly. And pillows. Many, many pillows. Later that evening, KLX called an emergency galaxy-wide broadcast. He stood before the camera, face grim. "To all civilized species of the spiral arm, heed our warning. We invited the humans to face death. They brought snacks. We gave them terror. They brought karaoke. We gave them despair. They healed it." He paused, eyes wide with something like awe, or maybe just fatigue. They are not conquerors. They are not monsters. They are chaotic joy incarnate, and they must never, ever be underestimated again. A long pause. Also, one of them stole my hover chair. Meanwhile, light years away, the SS Mayhem cruised through space, blaring Earth music and taking turns steering with their elbows. Chad leaned back, feet on the console, sipping something blue and probably illegal. He looked out at the stars and said, "You think they liked us?" Another voice responded, "Dude, they loved us." Chad smiled. Same time next year. The ship banked hard left, narrowly avoiding an asteroid labeled "Do Not Touch." Chad fist bumped the guy at the controls. "Earthlings, baby. Gone wild."